Survival game movies has already been around for quite a while. From Kinji Fukasaku's pioneering masterpiece Battle Royale, to classic gore horror franchise Saw started by James Wan, to Hollywood blockbusters like The Hunger Games, to more Japanese entries adapted from manga like Kaiji, The Ultimate Gambler, As the Gods Will, and series like Alice in Borderland, to the point that you can almost consider it as a new subgenre of thriller films. However, with the recent success of the acclaimed series Squid Game that is on track to become the most popular show ever on Netflix, I think it is worth studying how the Korean writer-director Hwang Dong-hyuk has injected new blood into the genre. The series does resemble some of the aforementioned films, whether in certain similar-looking games, or how the rich VIPs watch the poor game victims lose their lives for entertainment in a luxurious lounge. But to analyze the difference between Squid Game and the other survival game films, let's first start with the overall aesthetics. Contrasting with the cinematography and production design of the games in Battle Royale, Alice in Borderland, Kaiji the Last Gambler, or the Saw franchise, where the lighting is mostly dark, the look of the location is gritty, and sometimes post-apocalyptic. In Squid Game, the aesthetic of almost every single venue is clean, neat, conceptual, with high-key lighting, cartoon-like color palette, most significantly Barbie pink, an occasional tint of nostalgic warmth. Even the soundtrack has a creepily cheery vibe to it. These recall classic crime thrillers like A Clockwork Orange or Funny Games, where the bright images and playful attitude contrast with the horrible cruelty that is going on in the films to create an even more uncanny emotional effect. Because of that, the audience suspects that hidden behind the childish exterior is something much more sinister. Unlike the games in Alice in Borderland, Kaiji, or even Saw, Squid Game doesn't play any mind-boggling puzzle solving with us. All of the 6 rounds involved are children's games, with extremely simple rules. When taken out of context, nobody would have expected that a place which looked like a kindergarten or amusement park would turn into death traps even worse than a ruthless military camp. This innocent, playful, yet attention-drawing aesthetic most likely contributed to how well Squid Game has integrated into the pop culture, whether through memes or TikTok videos, widely spread as pop culture symbols. Which brings me to my next point. Squid Game fully utilizes stylized visual symbols as metaphors for our society. This is similar to another hugely acclaimed Korean film, Parasite, which carefully constructed a miniature world that highlights and heightens real-life issues on class inequality. The entire show of Squid Game is full of clear and ironic symbolisms, not only in the set design, but even reducing human beings into symbols as well, building an inhumane game world. The names and identities of every character are erased, replaced by numbers and shapes. Circles, triangles, and squares represent the laborers, the soldiers, and the managers. The players wear green prison uniforms. The first number and the last number represent the one who starts the game and the one who ends the game. The VIPs in animal masks reside in the lounge that resembles a natural jungle, almost positioning themselves as the predators on top of the food chain. The bodies of those who were eliminated are packaged in coffins that look like gift boxes, because some of them are indeed recycled as commodities for organ trafficking. The piggy bank that can store up to 456 billion won is hung at the highest position of the dormitory where the players look up to, radiating golden light almost like a sun. This represents how our desire for money grew as we grew up, until it disproportionately becomes our entire purpose of living. That's when it blinds us and eventually devours us. The further the game progresses, the more ritualistic it becomes. The clearer the symbolism where the players are regarded as chess pieces. From these top-down shots, we can observe how innocent lives casually get killed, and reflect on the absurdity of fate from an uncaring God's point of view. In other survival game movies like Battle Royale and Saw, it is not unusual that a mastermind is a sad old man who's either about to die of terminal illness or doesn't want to live anyway. But usually their reasons for designing the game consists of revenge, on top of teaching their victims a lesson about the value of life. But in Squid Game, the old man is just trying to relive the simple joy of childhood through sadistic means. Like what he said, life is no fun for the extremely poor and for the extremely rich. And the fact that the old man has no intention of revenge or punishment towards the victims of his games makes his actions all the more disturbing. On the other hand, when the poor people burdened by huge debt are tempted by great monetary reward and motivated by the fear of death, there's almost no room left for conscience as well. And the same person can change from courageous to cowardly, from honest to deceiving, from kind to selfish. Even though the rules of the games are simple, the complex human nature revealed under the harsh moral tests in extreme conditions is the most fascinating part of the Squid Game. Ironically, children's games may have more similarities with our adult lives and society than intellectual games which solve complicated puzzles. Children's games are simple, fun, but also primal, full of physical collision, winning by chance, uneven probability, and thus inequality. Games like Honeycomb and Glass Stepping Stones are by their nature unfair to begin with. Although the frontman executes the doctor together with a pink hoodie guard who spoiled 2 games for him, claiming that the game honors equality without any tolerance for cheating, unfair double standards happen almost everywhere in the story. For example, the old man already knew the rules and tricks to winning each round beforehand, and is also spared of the death sentence even when he loses. The guards encourage the players to kill each other even outside of the rules of the game. But they also get to decide when that is allowed and when that is not. Winning the marbles by cheating is allowed, but being able to tell apart the difference between normal glass and tempered glass through skill and experience is punished. And this is probably the most refreshing and thought-provoking question that the show has thrown to us. For some people, does choice and equality really exist? The old man justifies the morality of the game by saying that everyone joined it by choice. But this so-called freedom of choice is an illusion, because everything is under the control of the game organizers, including the worsening life situations of the players prior to the game. All along, Korean crime thrillers tend to function as tragical social commentaries as well. Usually in films like this, a few ordinary individuals try to fight a lonely battle against the current of an evil and corrupt system, struggling helplessly along the way to make difficult moral decisions. The ending usually doesn't resolve in a satisfying way, where sickening crime doesn't get punished and injustice prevails. A decade ago, Squid Game's director Hwang Dong-hyuk made Silenced, a hugely influential film in Korea based on a true story, which definitely falls under this category of crime thrillers. The mood of almost the entire film is repressed and filled with despair, packed with poignant, heart-wrenching moments and impactful deaths of sympathetic characters. In Silenced, the guilty faculty members who were culprits of physical and sexual abuse towards the hearing-impaired students were already caught 50% into the film. But the main focus of Silenced isn't on the mystery of finding out who are the criminals. Rather, it's about the difficulty of charging them and serving them the right sentence they deserve, when the power of status and bribery can even cover up the truth from both the witnesses and the victim's poor family. The film criticized the ineffective and unjust judicial system in Korea at the time, which sparked public outcry, prompting the police to reopen the case and reinstate serious punishment on the sex offenders in Gwangju Inghwa School. It even resulted in the enactment of the Dogani Law, a revised bill on sexual crimes against young children and the disabled. This was probably the reason why 10 years later, Hwang was so adept at infusing social realism into such a surreal story setting in Squid Game. In the episode 2, Hell, the director's mastery over social realism subject matters was displayed again. Unlike the other survival game shows, 93% of the players volunteered to be back. Because when compared to the hellish nature of the game, real life is not any better. Knowing that these people are the losers and outsiders of society with a gambler mentality, they can be easily manipulated. So coming back to the game is really a choiceless choice. Squid Game has shown us that whether inside or outside of the game, inequality will always exist, and often in the name of equality. Not unlike the society itself, everyone is involuntarily stuck inside an unfair game that they must keep playing as long as they are still alive. Reflecting on these larger societal issues may fill us with pessimism, knowing that most of our effort for change is doomed to fail, but it's also inspiring to see that there are people out there with enough courage to face the seemingly unsolvable problems. And maybe when a heavy message is packaged within universally understood symbols and popular entertainment, it can travel globally and seep into the public consciousness. And as Hwang Dong-hyuk's Silenced has proven, it may even change the world.